Okay, so today we're going to look at where did we get the idea that we could hook up electronic equipment to a human being to produce a desired result, whether that's keeping them alive or stopping them from being completely insane or all kinds of things. We use electricity on the human body in all kinds of ways. And we're going to examine where did that idea come from and how can we use modern examples to show where we are and where we're going. So that's what I'm doing here. I guess that's the best way to say it. Yeah, probably is. Okay. Now, in this work, we're going to use the consciousness calendar because we do have a calendar for consciousness. We've been keeping this calendar for I don't know how long. It's at least the oldest that I know of is 7,000 years old. And there's nobody disputing that because the first 20 I Ching hexagrams are the same as the 20 days of the Maya. So isn't that interesting? So that's how we know it went all the way across the earth, because if the Maya have it and the Chinese have it, then we know it's everywhere else, of course. So, but in the consciousness calendar, we have a couple of people. We check by the date of birth. Hugo Cerletti and William Kouwenhoven. Kouwenhoven? I don't know if it's Kouwenhoven or Kouwenhoven. Cow. Wow. No, it's cow. Coo. I don't think it's coo. This looks more like a cow. Kouwenhoven. Let's call it Kouwenhoven. Either way, he figured out how to revive people, and Hugo Cerletti had this idea. I don't want to say he figured something out. He definitely had this idea that, you know, it could help the brain if he did it in such and such a way. Now, to understand how to use the calendar in this adventure, you have to understand the Trasinas and the 20 days. It's not a big ask. The alphabet is 20 consonants. There's 20 amino acids. There's 20 days. And the first 20 hexagrams of the I Ching also correlate with these. None of them indicate causation, but what they do show is that this is a repetitive pattern. And the Trasina starts on a 1. This is a wheel within a wheel. The 13 numbers are not, they don't have names, they just have numbers. See, that's why the 20 days have names, and they also have images, they have descriptors all across the earth. There's a ton of information we can get on the 20 days. But the 13 numbers, not so much. It's more like a process. It's more like a wave. It starts at the inception of the wave and to the point where it's receding off the shore. That's what a 13 is. It's just what brings it. You could almost think of the 13 numbers as the machine that's driving the days. I don't know. We haven't got enough into it. We're not that deep. I think with computers, we should be able to get past this point, but we'll see. We're having trouble even getting people to understand that there is this stuff. The Trasina starts on the 1. Whatever day the 1 lands on, as that wheel goes around inside that other wheel, whatever day that 1 lands on, that's the beginning of the Trasina. It's like when the 1 lands on it, it picks up that flavor and spreads it through the next 13 days. That's one way to explain it. whatever day the one lands on, and each one takes a turn. If this goes around and around and around and around and around and around, each day, the entire cycle of which each day takes one turn with the number 1 is 13 weeks of 20, right? Or, 20 weeks of 13, you could call it. That's what I call it, is 20 weeks of 13. So it's like we call it the weeks. I call it 13-day cycle a week. Like there's nothing, we don't have words for it. It's called a trecina, but trecina only means a set of 13. So trecina works. It works. You can call it a trecina. That's fine. Call it whatever you want. This is what's going on. So in this static image, you would see that the 10 would land on Aj, the 11 would land on Ish, and the 12 would land on Zakin, the 13 will land on Ajmak, and then the 1 will land on Noj. And in the week of Noj is intelligence. So we track that to find the origin of Frankenstein, believe it or not. But before we find Frankenstein, we have to understand Kouwenhoven. Kouwenhoven is known as the father of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. He's the guy who invented the machine. You just slap these things onto somebody's chest and give it a jolt, and next thing you know, he's up doing grocery shopping. And that's how we do it. And that's Kouwenhoven, and that's what he did. And that's where he's born. So the other key is, this is the day you're born. The day you're born is when you get your job. That's what we've determined over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The day you are born is the day you get your job. And what else can you say? This guy was born in the trecina of physical death in the day of the brain. So he figured out cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's brilliant. Our universe is looking out for us. We're all on a schedule. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. As long as somebody's nearby with a machine that has enough battery left in it, you might get saved from choking on your bubble gum and having a heart attack. Okay, so then you have Hugo Cerletti. This is the guy who invented electroconvulsive therapy, where they hook it up to your brain. He's born on the exact opposite trecina and day as Kouwenhoven. Kouwenhoven's born on Noj, or born in the trecina of Noj on the day of Kamei, which is physical death. Cerletti is born on Noj, in the trecina of Noj on the day of Kamei. It's a little confusing, but these are the 2 points. These are the 2 points in the circle, is Noj and Kamei, physical death, and the brain, electricity. The brain operates on electricity, so you know. That's why the brain is right next to the day of electricity, number 2. And in this image, number 2 is T Hawks. That's the day of electricity. Noj is a pair with that. These are pairs. It starts with bots. So bots and E are a pair. Aj and Ish are a pair. Zakin and Ajmak are a pair. And then you have Noj and T Hawks are a pair. It's brain and electricity. And in that day, or in that trecina, on the day of physical death, Cerletti was born, and he invented this electroconvulsive therapy, which it's kind of terrifying when you think about it, but it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't have such crude machinery. You know, if all you got to do is glitz up the machinery a little bit and refine your techniques, and it won't be so scary. People have no problem being fed into an MRI machine. They just don't know about those. They just don't know about that mouthpiece and the straps on the gurney and the electrodes placed at your temples. We're not sure about that. But we're okay with smaller electrical impulses, aren't we? We're okay with that. But yeah, this is what we're examining, and you can see this is where it plays out. That's the manifestation of the electrical stimulus on the human body in the medical field is Nojin Kame. There's no question about this. The origin of the idea of using electricity on the human body was probably first introduced by Mary Shelley with Frankenstein. And this was back in 1818. And look at the hope in the doctor's eyes. He's so happy the guy lives, and he doesn't want him to be a monster. He never did that. He didn't intend that at all. He wanted him to be a sentient, wonderful thing. He wanted to. Dr. Frankenstein did not have the intention of making a monster. He had the intention of finding out the limits of using electricity to revive and resuscitate the human body. So she was born on one Ajpu, and the quote for Ajpu is the single. There's every day has every one of the 20 days has a single quote that can be put into 3 or 4 words. For Ajpu, it is "You shall not die." That is their mantra. That is the motivation of the day of Ajpu. They don't want to die. Scared of it. It's terrifying. Dying is terrifying. Kame is actually the day of physical death, but it's very careful and very explicit in explaining throughout the cultures. Now, not just the Maya, but I'm talking about the Chinese, all these people. It's very explicit on the day of Kame that this is physical death. It's physical. Like, this is not. It's not that you're going to die. It's that you need the realization of this. Sometimes it's contained in that day is the fear of death, so that you don't die. In other words, when you get up on the bridge and all your friends are yelling, "Jump, jump, jump," but you look down and you see a rock with a bunch of daggers sticking up, maybe the best idea is to not jump, maybe the peer pressure isn't the best wisdom of the day. So Kame has that as well. So, and I find also on the day of physical death is the people that find ways not to die. And sure enough, that's it. But the origin of the idea of not dying is definitely in Ajpu. So Mary Shelley nailed it with one Ajpu, and then Jerry Siegel, who created Superman, he brought it to a different level with 11 Ajpu, and he actually displays the magical characteristics, the superpowers of how this needs to be accomplished. Joe Shuster was his partner in that venture, and he was born on the very next day, not in their same Tresina, but Ajpu is the day before Emoj. So the days are always more important than the Tresina, therefore we pay attention to the days first. But Jerry Siegel and Mary Shelley, born on the same day of Ajpu, and Ajpu is definitely "You shall not die." That much we know. Now, the electrical stimulus on the human body, we don't know how far it goes back, because the earliest recorded human history definitely were directed to electric fish. There's electric fish. What? There's electric fish that live in the oceans and the rivers that will electrify you. Like they're batteries. Like we're all out there trying to get solar, buy your batteries, get all this hooked up, keep your car going, blah, blah. There's fish that do this biologically. And that's amazing. What an interesting thing. Everything is symbiotic. I do not doubt for 1 second that human beings have learned the symbiosis of electrical fish. We've kind of looked at everything else, and so that was going on. And then the everything else was going on when Mary Shelley came out with this book. Look at Faraday, come on, ampere, ohms, all in the same, like, what is that? What is it? Nine, says like an 8-year period, 8 or 9 year period. All of this came out. Ba-bam. Here comes electricity. Here comes the human body. Here comes the potentials. Here comes all the wonder and excitement with newfound harnessing of power. And yeah, we went wild with it. So these are the decan images. I always try to show these because the decan images show you specific geometry, thematic content. There's positioning. There's all kinds of things in these images. If you are an analyzer of images, these are the feast of the earth. Okay? That's my opinion. That and Hokusei. It's just that Hokusei's 36 views of Mount Fuji are a little tougher. You have to really get into the culture of what he was doing at the time in order to understand them. Whereas these ancient Hindu drawings of the decans don't depend as much on culture. They use the zoological principles, the anamorphosis principles, and the symbolism principles that are known commonly throughout the earth. As long as you know about the animal, you can understand them. If you don't know about the animal, then, well, it's going to be confusing. But, yeah, Cerletti built the machine that's in that image, right? Jerry Siegel is Monkey Decan. And so is Hugh Jackman and Evel Knievel. And look at the way they're doing that. And William Kouwenhoven. I mean, is that lion protecting its heart? It kind of looks like it to me. Like, because see, I always look at things as a warrior. If you look at his arm guard, call it, that it's pretty close. If you try to shoot his chest, you're probably going to hit that arm guard. He's probably going to be able to move that arm shield. He doesn't need a big one, just a small one. Just deflect the arrows away from his heart. He can take one in the leg. You can take one in the shoulder. You can't take one in the heart. So it's protecting the heart. And that's Kouwenhoven. And it's also MLK Ali Fraser Foreman. Okay, so you can go on to the Archer Decan video I have. You'll see all kinds of that. Virgin Decan, Mary Shelley is the Virgin. So here we finally arrive at the reason, the idea, the primordial purpose of the Frankenstein concept is if we can't revive the dead, then we can't protect the female. And the female, in her mind, her fantasy is that men could even bring other men back to life, to bring back to life her dead son that went to war, or whatever that may be. But the primordial idea of Frankenstein and the harnessing of electricity to get into the human body is definitely a primordial request from our mothers. The female principle of life wants it to continue, and she needs protection to do that. So in the 20 days, Ajpu is the protectors of life. The body parts are the chest, lungs, and eyes. Tihox is the electricity. Noj is the brain. I mean, these are specific. By the way, I'm not making this stuff up. It's not a. This is stuff that was very carefully These are the one word or short translations of the principal meaning of the glyph and the day of the time, because the glyphs can change, the languages can change. What they do and what's in them does not. Okay? So you can go to the I Ching. This would be hexagram number 10, and you can look at it and you can take their symbolism, their cultural representation of it. It will be the exact same as the Quiche Maya, falls on the same people. The day you're born is, boy, it has a lot to do with a lot of stuff. It's incredible. But that's Cerletti is born on Kame, physical death, and Kouwenhoven is born on the day of the brain. But Kouwenhoven shocks the heart and Cerletti shocks the brain. But they're completely switched. It's really amazing. Really amazing. But there you have it. So Shelley and Siegel born on the same day, Schuster on that day, Tesla born on the day of electricity, Kouwenhoven born on the day of the brain, Cerletti born on the day of physical death. They all reversed, or Kouwenhoven and Cerletti reversed polarities. They connected their polarities because Kouwenhoven being born on the day of Kame in the Trecina of Noj, and Cerletti being born in the Trecina of Kame on the day of Noj, they complete a cycle between the brain and the heart and electricity. Okay? And that is extremely precise in this calendar. That's where the ideas came from. So when you ask an artist where the idea came from, well, this is where Siegel's idea came from. What are the body parts of Ajpu? He created Superman. Well, it's the eyes and the chest and the lungs. And it's also the day of the serpent, by the way. It is chapter 3. Ajpu is chapter 3 in Genesis. There's no question about this. Genesis follows their Tricinas Genesis follows their Tricinas by chapter all the way to number 50 precisely. Yes, and it is the serpent. So he has the serpent on his chest. But serpent is the cunning. It's the careful, slow work of humility, because nobody has fewer tools than a snake. I mean, a worm, right? You're a worm, right? Basically. What's a snake? It's nothing more than an above ground worm. If you're a worm, you're pretty humble, but you're really looking for some protection. I mean, you're pretty vulnerable. Crying out loud, anything walks along is step on you. Everything else tries to eat you. It's craziness. And you're plentiful, and all you're doing is producing the ground. You're protecting all the plants. The worms convert organic matter into fertile soil. That's what they do. They have a job. They protect everything. If you lose your fertile soil, well, good luck with that. Go live on Mars. Superman brought an example to humanity of how important it is of the day you're born, because he is the manifestation of a man born on the day of the protectors of life. So it's the blowgun, it's the gun, it's the snake, What did the snake say, by the way? The snake didn't look and say, hey, man, come on, let's get down to the pool hall and smoke cigars. That's not what the snake said. Snake said, nah, don't worry about that shit. You're not going to die. That's what the snake said, right? And he turned out to be right. The snake turned out to be right. So, knowledge will not kill you. The lack of it will. That's what the snake said in Genesis. My opinion, based on the fact that I examine it through a different lens. I don't know whose lens other people examine it from. That book is all about the Tricina and the decans. Bull. That'll be proven over time. I don't need to do it. It's coming. And the other aspect of Superman and Cerletti and Kouwenhoven is the primordial idea of the male in human species is really one of protection, and I don't even know if the male human is really all about sustenance. Like, there are farmers, but like with lions, the female lions do the lion's share of the hunting. I don't know how much human human females are definitely great in the garden. I don't know if we had a contest between male gardeners and female gardeners. That would be interesting to have in this age of the internet. Like, have a competition. Let's see who can grow the best garden, males or females. I don't know. I think it'd probably be females. The males are definitely geared more for protection and yeah, protection. We build the houses, provide physical security, carry the water, do the big work, keep the women and children going. The electricity between the brain and the heart, and the preservation of that, is born from that primordial idea of protection of life. The protection of life. Mary Shelley and Jerry Siegel pretty much nailed it. There's 1,000 examples to pile on top of this. The person who invented the Kevlar vest was also born in this part of the pantheon. Not on those days, but in that pantheon, because it gets on and on. I'll have another video. I might do a video just about the Kevlar vest because it ties into Superman. But that's a deeper understanding of how the days work with the decans. But for this video, I just wanted to show that I can use scientists as examples to show that the date of birth is the day you get your job. And Cerletti got his job, and Kouwenhoven got his job, and Siegel got his job, and Shelley got her job, all on the day of their birth.